Agenda 2030, Digital Governance and the Architecture of Global Control. What if the future of governance is not decided in parliaments, but in data systems? What if power no longer comes from armies or elections, but from indicators, algorithms, and digital identity? Agenda 2030 is officially presented as a roadmap for sustainable development. It was adopted in 2015 by nearly every UN member state. On paper, it is about eradicating poverty, improving education, protecting the climate, and modernizing economies. But behind the language of sustainability lies something more structural. A system. 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Over 230 global indicators. Continuous monitoring across food systems, land use, health, education, energy, cities, finance, climate, and technology. This is not simply policy coordination. It is standardization at a planetary scale. And it is driven most aggressively by the United States, the European Union, and Western-aligned Institute. IONS. How control is exercised. Agenda 2030 does not rely on soldiers or overt coercion. It relies on systems architecture. First, data and indicators. More than 230 global metrics now track population behavior, consumption patterns, land management, health outcomes, energy usage, and education performance. These indicators create measurable compliance. Countries that fall short do not face invasion. They face financial pressure, capital constraints, reputational isolation. Compliance becomes economically rational. Second, public-private partnerships. Implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals increasingly occurs not solely through elected governments, but through collaboration with multinational corporations, global banks, and NGOs. Policy execution shifts from national legislatures to transnational networks. Decision-making becomes technocratic rather than political. Third, digital control infrastructure. Digital governance systems. AI management tools. Digital ID frameworks, carbon accounting, smart cities, centralized data platforms. These are not isolated technologies. They form an integrated governance ecosystem. When identity, financial access, public services, and mobility are linked to digital systems, visibility expands. Governments and private partners gain unprecedented insight into individual behavior. Access to energy. Access to credit, access to travel, access to markets. All of it can be conditioned according to centrally defined standards. Not by decree, but by system design. Western power at the core. Agenda 2030 is presented as global cooperation, but its architecture is overwhelmingly shaped by Western nations and Western capital. Western NGOs often act as policy implementers on the ground. Western asset managers control capital flows linked to sustainability benchmarks. Western technology firms provide the digital infrastructure upon which compliance systems depend. Developing nations are expected to adapt to standards they did not design. The structure is global. The control nodes are concentrated. What global elites say in their own words. This is not hidden. Klaus Schwab, founder of the World Economic Forum, stated, "The future is about governing through systems, not politics." Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, stated, "Behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies to do." Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, stated, "We need global governance for AI. This cannot be managed by individual nations." These are not conspiracy claims. They are public statements. And they reflect a shared worldview. Governance through systems. Standardized behavior. Global coordination. Oversight beyond national sovereignty. The emphasis is not on electoral mandate. It is on managed outcomes. The core question. Is Agenda 2030 simply modernization? Or is it a transformation of governance itself? When political debate is replaced by compliance metrics. When national discretion is replaced by global benchmarks. When identity becomes digital and conditional. Power changes form. It becomes embedded. It becomes automated. It becomes difficult to see, because it operates through standards rather than force. The debate is no longer about individual policies. It is about the framework. Who defines the indicators? Who controls the infrastructure? Who conditions access? And who is accountable? Agenda 2030 may be framed as sustainable development, but structurally, it represents a shift towards system-governed societies, where coordination is centralized, behavior is standardized, and oversight extends across borders. The architecture is already being built. The only remaining question is who ultimately controls it. Watch and listen to the video that explains it all. Make your voice heard. Make your opinion count. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and leave a like so you can stay informed about what's happening in the world, militarily and geopolitically. These are serious times. Stay alert. Here comes the video. Enjoy.
United Nations Agenda 21, Sustainable Development. It is the inventory and control plan. Inventory and control of all land, all water, all minerals, all plants, all animals, all construction, all means of production, all food, all energy, all information, and all human beings in the world. And this is a plan that was agreed to by 179 nations back in 1992. It's a United Nations plan. It's called the Agenda for the 21st Century. And so many of us around the world think that sustainable development, it just sounds so great. Isn't it about recycling and creative reuse and creating energy and food resources for everyone? And the answer is no, it really is not. It's about moving populations into city centers, concentrated city centers, and clearing them out of the rural areas. It's constructed of non-governmental organizations, corporations, and government in order to dictate and regulate what it is that happens around the world. Regionalization is the stepping stone to globalization, and globalization is the standardization of all systems. All systems have to be brought into harmony in order to control them all. And the goal of Agenda 21 is one world government and total control from a central unit. The principles are public-private partnerships, which is fascism. And this is how it's implemented on the ground, is through this joining together between corporations, non-governmental organizations, and governments in order to cut out the actual individual, your voter, and instead to take that to a level where we literally cannot penetrate. This is a corporatocracy. It's a totalitarian state being developed right now all over the world. While we are moving towards the end game, we are not there. And this is the opportunity that all of us have now to stand up, to speak out. We are free, and we need to continue to be free. And I do believe that we will win, but we have to become aware that there is a fight.